Bloodline. They say the Rourke family was cursed, but no one remembers when it started, only that it was passed in blood. Every firstborn child died before their 17th birthday, always in strange, violent ways. A drowning in a dry well, a lightning strike under a cloudless sky, a girl found with her mouth stuffed full of dirt, eyes wide, nails broken from clawing at the earth, as if she'd buried herself. The town whispered, the family prayed, nothing stopped it. When Carolyn Rourke turned 16, her father locked her in the cellar. No windows, he said. No blades, no accidents. Just a bed, books, and food. You'll survive. You'll break the curse. Carolyn didn't scream. She agreed. She wanted to live. The door bolted above her. Darkness. Time passed in flickering lantern light. She read by candle. She counted the days on the wall. Then the knocking started, soft at first, from behind the stones.
Carolyn, it's so dark.
She pressed her ear to the wall. Who's there? Silence. The next night, it came again.
I'm cold, Carolyn. Help me.
No, she whispered. You're not real. The voice cried, wept, begged. Her father said nothing when he brought food, just slid the tray through the hatch. On the 16th night, Carolyn woke to scraping, a crack in the stone wall, tiny fingers reaching through, ash gray, twitching.
Let me in, Carolyn.
She screamed. The door above rattled, but stayed locked. From the crack, a pale face appeared, childlike, with empty black eyes.
I'm your brother, Thomas. They buried me before you were born. I never got out. But now, you can let us all in.
Us? More hands reached through the stone, small broken hands, every firstborn child, their mouths open wide, impossibly wide.
Blood
remembers.
remembers.
Carolyn backed away, pressed to the far wall, shaking. Dad, open the door! No answer. The children began crawling through the crack, their limbs bending wrong, bones creaking. She grabbed a rusted spoon from her tray, a weapon. But one of them whispered,
It's not us. It's her.
Who? A figure stepped through the wall behind them, taller, older, her skin split with scars, hair dripping wet as if just pulled from a river. Her dress was stitched with bone fragments.
The first. The beginning.
Carolyn screamed. Upstairs, her father sat in the parlor, staring at the clock. A minute past midnight. He smiled. She hadn't called out once. The curse was broken. Then the lantern flickered out, and the screaming began. The Hallow Acre. They called it the Hallow Acre, an empty patch of land where nothing grew, not even weeds. It sat behind the old Winslow barn, bordered by gnarled trees that never bore leaves. Farmers avoided it. Children dared each other to step into it. No one ever did twice. Legend said that the land had been cursed in 1872 when a settler named Elias Mercer tried to raise a church there. He struck something while digging. Bones, charred, black, and ancient. That night, he burned alive in his sleep, his screams carrying for miles. After that, his land turned foul. Livestock miscarried, water soured. People whispered of shadows that moved without light. More than a century later, the land remained untouched until Derek Crowley bought it. He was a contractor from the city, proud, skeptical, and greedy. When he heard the land was going for pennies, he laughed at the stories. "No such thing as curses," he said. "Just superstitious nonsense." He brought in machines, bulldozers, men. On the first day of digging, the ground bled. Not mud, not clay. Blood. Thick and dark, oozing from beneath the soil. The workers quit. Derek pressed on. He fired them and hired new ones, paid double. They lasted a day before one slit his own throat in the porta-potty. At night, Derek stayed alone in his trailer. He heard whispers through the vents, low and wet, like breathing underwater. Something knocked from beneath the floor. He blamed the wind. He drank heavily. Then the dreams began. A scorched man stood in a field of ash, eyes dripping molten tar. "You dug too deep," the man rasped. "Now it grows again." Derek woke choking on dirt. On the seventh night, the trees surrounded the Hallow Acre creaked and split open, revealing hollow faces in the bark, screaming, blind, teeth like needles. From the soil, fingers emerged, dozens, hundreds, crawling things, twisting, starving. Derek tried to flee, but the land wouldn't let him go. He was found a week later, or what was left of him. Skin peeled, bones blackened, jaws dislocated in a permanent scream. His heart was missing. The Hallow Acre is still there, but now it grows. Brambles shaped like spines, flowers that drip pus. A tree stands at its center, twisted and veined, pulsing like a heart. And sometimes, at night, it whispers your name. Better not answer. Better not look. And never, under any circumstance, dig. The Mirror Wife. The villagers whispered about Evelyn. She had once been radiant, her smile warm enough to thaw winter. But now, her skin was pale as candle wax, lips always quivering, and her eyes never met anyone else's. She lived alone in the crumbling Renmore estate. Her only company, an ornate mirror she'd covered in black velvet. They said she'd been cursed. Years ago, Evelyn had married a charming stranger, Julian, who wandered into town with storm-gray eyes and a voice that dripped honey and danger. They wed within a week, but on the night of their union, her screams echoed through the valley. Julian was never seen again. Some claimed he'd run off. Others whispered he had never been human. Evelyn never spoke of him. She only started wearing gloves, long sleeves, and veils, always hiding her skin. Every night, candlelight flickered through her windows, and sometimes you could hear her weeping. Other nights, it sounded more like laughter, twisted, mocking. Curious children dared each other to peek through her windows. One boy swore he saw Evelyn standing before her mirror, whispering to it, her reflection not mirroring her movements. Instead, it smiled while she wept. Another girl claimed Evelyn's reflection bled from the eyes. Then the disappearances began. First a hunter vanished near the woods behind the estate, then a milkmaid, then 2 of the village councilmen. Always at dusk, always after speaking ill of Evelyn. One brave soul, Father Marrow, approached her doorstep, determined to exorcise the devil from her home. He never made it back. All they found was his crucifix, melted and warped, on her porch. Eventually, the mayor ordered the house condemned, but when the men came with torches, the estate had already burned to the ground the night before. No body was found. They thought Evelyn was gone. But sometimes, even now, people hear weeping in the wind. They see a woman walking in fog, her face hidden behind a veil. And mirrors, if you look too long into one on certain nights, you might catch a glimpse of her behind you, still watching. Evelyn had made a pact in her desperation when Julian revealed his true form, that of something ancient and cruel, a collector of souls. In exchange for her life, she agreed to carry the curse forward, to live eternally haunted as a vessel between this world and the next. The mirror had been the gateway. Now, she was the gatekeeper. She cannot die. She cannot escape. But she can trade places. So if you ever find an old mirror, the glass rippling like water, and you see a woman inside who doesn't quite move like you, don't touch it. She's still waiting. My Family's Curse by the Prowler. I never imagined that me and my family would be the cause of humanity's destruction, and that our colons would be the culprit. You may find that last statement strange, so I think it's best to start somewhat at the beginning. Ever since I could remember, every family member who I cared about, everyone that was important, died from colon or anal cancer. Slow, horrific deaths that you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. One day, I decided to do some familial research and did a deep dive into our ancestors. And what I found was a trail throughout my family's lineage of the same slow, horrific deaths. It was unbelievable. every member of my historic family tree died the same way. It was a joke at the time, but someone said it was like our family had a curse put on our anuses. As I continued my research, however, those jokeful statements proved to be true. I traced an ancestor by the name of Antony Stacciatore to the city of ancient Rome. He was a Roman centurion, disgraced and executed when he was caught helping in the crimes of fellow centurion turned serial killer Stulio Barbari. When Stulio Barbari was executed and crucified for his crimes, it is said he made a deal with the devil as he hung dying, and he took with him an ancestor as his henchman. Stulio, once in hell, became better known as Stoolzabub, the demon of shit and all unholy excrement. Thanks to my ancestor, Antony Stacciatore, he put an eternal curse on our family. Not only the certain death we had to look forward to, as in relation to our unsuspecting anuses, but also every generation in my family had to carry the distinction of having the smelliest, most rotten of sphinxters wherever they went. No fart was safe. Every movement of a cheek was untrustworthy. The phrase one cheek sneak was unattainable. Going to the bathroom in public facilities was out of the question. The wrong food or a miscalculation could clear out an establishment. An uncle of mine made a mistake one day of taking a laxative. He thought he was the lone normal one because he was feeling a little plugged up. A little constipated, he thought. Well, he thought wrong. It wasn't constipation he was dealing with. It was just his anus playing possum. It was just in a state of momentary hibernation. When he took the laxative, he instantly knew he had made a fatal mistake. He had hoped he was the normal one. He had hoped that he had just an average pedestrian sphincter. But when he let out that first scream, when he felt the laxatives kick in, he knew his anus was cursed, like the rest of our family. He rushed to the bathroom, but he was not quick enough. He had a chocolate river flowing from his ass that would make Willy Wonka jealous. The screams from my uncle were said to be stomach-churning from the people who were there, along with the sour notes being played by his butt trumpet. There was no help. Nothing anyone could do. It took just over a day for him to die. The official cause was from dehydration. The man just couldn't stop shitting. I couldn't think of a more horrible way to go, or embarrassing way for that matter, so I decided to get ahead of the situation. Since my family line is cursed, and I'm destined to die some horrible way related to my ass, I've decided to give my loyalty and my services to the Lord of Shit himself, Stoolzabub. My ancestor can't be his only henchman. Plus, I'm still of the living and can be of service, spreading the word of the stool, gathering new followers for his sludgy kingdom. So I entered the bathroom, lit a few brown candles, and sat upon the porcelain altar. Thankfully, it was chilly, and I was able to summon him with just a few toots from my poop flute. For a demon, he was quite pleasant. He complimented my anus's musicality. He said he hadn't heard such beautiful sour notes being played like that since Louis Armstrong summoned him one night in the 40s. Thankfully for me, he accepted my proposal, All I had to do was show my loyalty by performing a Vestal Virgin sacrifice, that old chestnut, and I was ready to go. Officially a member of the Stoolsy Club. I'm now thankfully rid of my family curse for the rest of my living days on Earth. I traded in rectum bliss for an eternal servitude to the demon of shit. But it's worth it. That's a warning for you, though. One man's mistake can plague an entire lifeline. So be careful who you associate yourself with and who you pledge your loyalty to, because you might end up like me and my family, cursed for eternity and living in a world of shit. Welcome to Greybridge. They say Greybridge disappeared from the maps in 1956, but no one knows why. No war, no disaster, just gone. People who remember it won't talk, and those who try to find it rarely return. But Ben wasn't afraid of old ghost stories. He was a journalist, not a child. When a tattered postcard bearing the words, "Wish you were here, Greybridge," arrived at his office with no sender, postmark, or return address, he smelled a story. The directions scribbled on the back were oddly specific. Drive east until the road ends. Park. Walk exactly 7 minutes north through the woods. Don't stop, no matter what you hear. He followed them. The forest grew unnaturally quiet the deeper he went. No birds, no wind, just the sound of his boots crunching dried leaves. At minute 7, the trees abruptly thinned, revealing a town preserved in time. Gas lamps, cobblestone streets, and a rusted welcome sign that read, "Welcome to Greybridge, population 731." It hadn't been updated in decades. People milled about, pale, expressionless, dressed in mid-century clothing. Their eyes followed him, but no one spoke, not even a whisper. Ben raised his camera, but it refused to click. Dead batteries. He reached for his phone. No signal. A boy in suspenders approached him, head tilted. "You shouldn't have come," he said softly. "Now it knows you're here." "Who?" Ben asked. The boy only pointed upward. Ben followed the gesture and saw nothing but swirling gray clouds. Then something moved, slowly, impossibly large. A mass of shadow, barely visible, shifting behind the sky like it wore it as a mask. A great eye blinked open, wide enough to swallow the sun. The town didn't scream. It hummed, a low, bone-deep vibration that made Ben's teeth chatter. The townfolk turned in unison and walked towards him, their faces slack, their eyes now black pits. Ben ran. The woods had changed. The path was gone, and the forest closed in with each desperate step. Laughter echoed all around, children's laughter, but twisted, layered with something older and hungrier. He stumbled into a clearing and collapsed, gasping. Behind him, the boy stood at the tree line. "You can't leave unless it lets you, and it doesn't let go once it sees you." Ben's scream was lost in the stillness. Days later, another postcard appeared at his office, addressed in his handwriting. "Wish you were here. Greybridge." The ink was still wet, and the population sign now reads, Population 732. Whispers beneath the weeds. No one buried their dead in Granger's Hollow anymore. The cemetery on Blackwood Hill had been abandoned since the autumn of 1874, when the last funeral ended in blood and screaming. Legends told of a gravedigger who whispered to the dead and carved strange symbols into the tombstones. Others spoke of a mass grave beneath the chapel, never consecrated, filled with bodies that didn't stay still. Eli, a thrill-seeker with a taste for the occult, didn't believe any of it. He arrived just after midnight, armed with a lantern and a smirk. The gate creaked open, iron rust flaking like dried blood. Dead vines coiled around crumbling angels, and headstones split like broken teeth. Fog oozed between the graves, muffling sound, thick as breath. He paused at the mausoleum marked Hiram Greaves, 1821 to 1874. The door stood ajar. "Perfect," Eli muttered, stepping inside. Inside was colder, darker. The air felt wrong, heavy, like it was watching him. He lit incense and placed it on the stone slab, reciting a summoning ritual he'd found in a forbidden corner of the internet. Nothing happened. He chuckled. "I guess the dead are lazy." Then a whisper, not from the air, but beneath the floor. He leaned down. More whispers, dozens, chanting, mocking. The slab cracked. Eli staggered back as black liquid oozed from the fractures. It smelled like rot and iron. From the darkness below, pale fingers rose, thin, long, and many. Too many. A skeletal figure dragged itself up, its eyes hollow but gleaming with malicious hunger. More emerged behind it. Men, women, children, all impossibly thin, their mouths sewn shut with red wire, yet still whispering. Eli ran, stumbled over roots and stone. The fog clawed at his legs like grasping hands. The cemetery had changed. Graves moved. Paths looped. The gate was gone. And then he saw the chapel, a dim light flickering inside. Desperate, he entered. It reeked of decay and old prayers. The pews were shattered, the altar blackened. Carved into the floor was a massive symbol, a spiral of bones and runes that pulsed with dull light. The whispering was loud now, everywhere, seeping into his skull. Then he saw the mirror, cracked, ancient, its frame made of knotted human bones. In the reflection, the chapel was full, hundreds of the dead watching him. Behind him stood the gravedigger, face stitched into a permanent grin. "You called us?" the gravedigger rasped. "Now you're part of the Hollow." Eli tried to scream, but his voice caught in his throat. He looked down, red wire stitching his lips shut, blood pooling at his feet. They buried him beneath the chapel that night. He still whispers with the rest, just waiting. The itch. No one saw it happen, but everyone noticed the change. Graham had always been grounded, normal, but 1 month after his mother's funeral, he changed. He came back from her old house in the hills, pale, twitching, with a jagged scratch on his chest. "Old attic mirror broke," he said. "Glass cut me." But glass doesn't crawl under your skin. Glass doesn't whisper. He started scratching. Neck, arms, chest, furiously, constantly. First it was mild, then obsessive. His hands were always red, his eyes hollow. When asked, he muttered, "It's underneath." Within days, he stopped going out, locked himself inside. Neighbors said they heard screams at night and rhythmic thuds, like someone slamming their head against the wall. When the sheriff forced his way in, he found Graham huddled in the dark, surrounded by candles. His skin was flayed in strips. Carvings in Latin covered the walls. "Skin is a prison," one read. "The old gods live under our flesh." Graham was sedated and institutionalized, but the scratching didn't stop. He tore through restraints. A nurse tried to calm him. He bit her cheek off. The night he escaped, they found a passage burned into the floor of his room, etched in blood. "I am the gate." It wasn't random. Back in the 1800s, Graham's ancestors had come from Romania. His great-great-grandfather was part of an ancient cult, the Flensari, who believed true divinity lived beneath the skin. They practice a rite called decarnatio, a flaying ritual meant to peel away human weakness and awaken the god within. But the final ritual required a sacrifice of blood and a mirror. The mirror was the vessel, etched with runes, blessed in shadow. It had been passed down, hidden, until Graham's mother tried to destroy it, breaking the seal. The ritual had never ended. It had only waited. Now it burned in Graham's blood. One by one, people in town began to vanish. Days later, they'd be found, flayed, skin folded neatly beside them, eyes wide with horror, walls marked with the same phrase, "Still itches." The sheriff tried to track him, found a cellar in the woods, inside a circle of peeled faces, all arranged like flower petals. In the center, Graham's journal. "It isn't possession. It's revelation," it read. "There's something divine underneath us. The skin lies. It hides what we are." They never found him. Only whispers. Some say you can hear, late at night, scratching, wet and slow, like nails raking bone. Sometimes a voice outside your window. "Do you want to see what you really are?" If you answer, he'll show you, and you'll never stop itching again. I would like to give a heartfelt thank you to the special friends of the channel for your overwhelming generosity. If you would like to support the channel, the link is below in the description. Also, please send me your stories and poems to duchessofdarkness27@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram at duchess.ofdarkness and Twitter at duchessofdark and2. I want to thank all my listeners for your kindness, your encouragement, and your support. It means the world to me. Thank you for joining me. Until next time.